Hello, thank you for tuning into another episode of Take 10 on Tuesday with the Tennessee Tribune. I'm Jason Luntz. Today, it's a little warm finally in Nashville, so I decided to leave the office, and I'm downtown area. I'm at the assessor property with George Rooker. How are you doing?
Doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm great, and I know you're a really busy man, but you have some exciting programs going on, and we thought it'd be great to share them with our viewer.
Right. Well, we do. The assessor's office is responsible for appraising, classifying, and assessing all the taxable property in the county. We have 236,000 parcels of real estate, and we have about 25,000 tangible business personal property accounts. So we have to value all that property, and we do that every 4 years. We revalue all that property, and it's called a reappraisal program.
Okay.
And we have a reappraisal program coming up in 2017.
Wow.
And so we'll be actually revaluing all the properties in the county at that point in time.
Now, before I get to to that program, let me just ask you, what's the difference between the way you appraise properties and the appraiser I may hire when I'm purchasing a home?
Well, we are both, the appraiser, the private appraiser and the assessor is trying to do basically the same thing, is to estimate the value of the property, what a willing buyer would pay a willing seller in just an arm's length transaction for the property. We do it a little differently. We do a mass appraisal of property where that private appraiser would come in and actually pull 3 comparables for a particular house and do that sort of thing. We build appraisal models, and what we do is take all the sales data that we have in a neighborhood, and then we try to compare like properties. We build the models, we use some algorithms, and we just try to predict using those mass appraisal models what properties are going to sell for. Okay. And it's a very similar process. We're both, the private and public sector appraisers in this case, are both using market data to help them determine what they believe the most probable selling price is for a piece of property that is not for sale.
Okay, that sounds great. Now, the public and private, are the amounts that they usually come at, are they usually close? Are they sometimes very distant from each other?
They should be close.
Okay.
It's important for people to understand that in our process that our visual inspections are done from the exterior of the house. So when we go out and look at a piece of property, we're just doing an exterior inspection. We don't go inside. That private appraiser is most likely going to do an exterior inspection, and they're going to go inside and look at the interior. So we have to make a lot of assumptions about the interior characteristics of a house. So when we do an appraisal, it's important, and we really welcome the public to look at our records, and they can do that on our website very easily. Just pull it up at it's www.padctn.org, Property Assessor, Davidson County, Tennessee, or you can get to it through Nashville.gov. Okay. And it'll link right to our site, and you can look at all the individual property characteristics for land and buildings for all properties, and you can also click on a comparable sales button, and you can see all the properties that have sold in your neighborhood. Well,
now that's good. So you can actually have an idea, and then you can see, wow, that can give you a real idea what your market value is.
That should it's very useful in a lot of respects, because if people are thinking about buying or selling, they can look at that data and come up with a pretty good idea of what they think a piece of property is worth. If they're reviewing our work, and when they get their reappraisal notice next year, they can look at what we have the property appraised for. Then they can go online and look and see if the description's accurate. So if we have the house, say, being a higher quality or a higher condition than it's actually in, if we say it's in really good condition, but actually they hadn't done a lot of interior work on the house, and it's not in as good a condition as we thought, then our appraisal may overstate the actual value of the property. And they need to let us know, and we're happy to have that information and happy to use it.
Is there ever vice versa? Like, I just put in new cabinets, a new bathroom, it's been totally rehabbed. Can they let the city know that?
They can. They absolutely can. And people actually do that. People sometimes will let us know that their house is in better condition than we reflect on our records.
Okay.
So we just want to get there. We just want to get the data accurate. It's if you don't have accurate data, it's hard to have an accurate appraisal. So we ask people to review that data when they get that notice and look at those sales, because property owners know their property and their neighbor's property is far better than we do. They can know when they look to see what properties have sold in their neighborhood, which properties are most comparable with their property, and then they can look and see what those sales prices are, and you can break that down very easily. In fact, our website does it. on a price per square foot basis. So they can see if most everything in their neighborhood that they think is comparable selling for, let's just say, $100 a square foot,
Yes.
and we've got their property appraised at $110 a square foot, then they may want to contact us through that website. It's an easy process, and just let us know. These are the properties that I think are most comparable to mine, and the reason I do is because I think the condition is similar to those, and you have my condition reflected at a higher level. So then we can take a look at that and make a judgment as to whether or not we want to make an adjustment to our appraisal.
Based off that.
Right.
Okay, now, so the reappraisal program, 2017.
2017.
So what else can people that own private property do besides get in touch with you and let you know other information? Is there anything else?
Well, that's the main thing. That's the most important thing, and it's a really important that they let us know in a timely manner, because we'll start mailing out reappraisal notices in March of 2017. They have to have an appeal filed with our office by about the middle of June. The date's not set yet, but it'll be around the middle of June. And if they miss that deadline, then they could actually miss an entire year.
Wow.
And it may have been the next year before they can actually bring that back up to us again, because we have a deadline and we can't change things after that point in time. So we want to hear from people. It's not good when we hear from people after the deadline. I hate that when people come in and say, I've got a legitimate issue here I want you to look at, and have to say, well, I can't look at it because the deadline passed a few days ago.
You gotta wait.
And you gotta wait till next year. So we want to get the word out. That's one reason we want to talk to the media and others about the process, so people will know when they need to respond to us, and we're happy to discuss their appraisals with them.
And people that own commercial property, they get notices as well?
Same process.
Okay.
Commercial and residential is the same process. And we all know Nashville is booming right now.
Yes.
It's the it city. Exactly. And we've seen. I've been working in the office for 35 years now, and this is going to be a historic reappraisal, just in terms of the amount of value increase.
And I was just about to ask you. There's a lot of new houses that have been built since 4 years ago.
Right.
So will those owners? What kind of notices will they get?
Well, we do an annual assessment roll, and
Okay.
we pick up new construction every year if it's complete by January the 1st.
Okay.
We don't value it at its current market value. We use the models that were built at the previous reappraisal program to value those properties, but they're still picked up and put on the assessment roll. And they get a notice when we pick it up and put it on the roll initially, and then they'll get like everyone else in the county, they'll get a notice at the time of the reappraisal.
Oh, okay. Now that's good. Another quick question. I don't know what role your department plays in this, but affordable housing is something that we hear a lot about as Nashville grows.
Right.
And sometimes I see properties that are selling in neighborhoods for really high prices. Is there any role that the assessor property department plays in that?
Well, our role is, again, to appraise the property at its market value, but the assessor is given their job duties by the state legislature. So the state legislature has given us the responsibility for being the property tax administrator in each county in the state. We don't have a policy making role, but we do work very closely with legislators and council members and in the mayor's office to help provide them with information that they can use to help make good policies, because everybody is concerned about that. I've talked to all those people. I've been attending meetings with the council's affordable housing committee and working with MDHA and others to try to help to get the information that they need about what is happening in the marketplace and what areas are most affordable and what areas are least affordable, and how value increases are moving forward in this market. And what we're seeing, which is again when I started working here in the 1980s, early 80s, we saw value increases that were greater in the suburbs.
Yes.
So out around the county line, all the new subdivisions going in those areas were really appreciating more rapidly than the core of the city. And now that has totally changed.
It's the opposite.
It's the opposite. So we're seeing all the properties around the county line are appreciating, and their values are going up, but they're not going up nearly as quickly as those properties in the inner core.
That's interesting, and I guess so. I guess you get to see a lot about the trends of how people, like professionals, for example, they want that walkability. They don't want to have to drive in, and it's very interesting, that change.
It is, and what we're seeing is that those value increases started in areas like East Nashville and Sylvan Park and 12th South, areas like that. And what we're seeing now is that adjoining areas are starting to actually outpace those areas where all that started. Now, that's not to say that those areas are still not appreciating very rapidly, because they are. East Nashville, 12th South, all of them are doing great. But areas like Cleveland Park in East Nashville that wasn't appreciating so rapidly, now is the fastest appreciating neighborhood in the county.
In the whole county.
Yeah, District Council District 5 is the fastest appreciating council district. And I think it's because the pricing in those adjoining areas was lower because the prices had run up so much in some of those really hot areas that people started to look just down the street, or
down the street, just right there.
It's right there. It's cheaper, and I can get a better deal.
But then
they're driving those prices up now. So
yeah, it is amazing.
It is. It is. So we've seen a 45% increase in values in Cleveland Park in the last 3 years.
Wow.
Whereas if you go out to areas like Joelton and Goodlettsville, we're seeing something more like 15%.
15. Okay. So those outer areas.
3 times the rate of increase.
So, well, before I let you go, that is one question I usually ask. You mentioned you started working in this office in the 1980s.
Right.
Are you a native of Nashville?
I'm a native of Nashville. I grew up in Inglewood and live in East Nashville.
Oh, it's okay. So you're from that area.
So I'm from that area.
And what do you think about as a native, just as a native, we'll put the native hat on, native Nashville, East Nashville. What do you think about the growth of Davidson County and Middle Tennessee as a whole?
Well, it's I just noticed the other day that East Nashville, or a certain area in East Nashville, was rated the number 2 neighborhood in the country, in the whole country.
Wow.
And that's just phenomenal to me. And so I have a lot of pride in Nashville because I am a native, and I've lived here my entire life, and so I think it's great for the city. I love the fact that it's the city and that we're doing so well and the economy's booming. But I do have concerns about how that affects people who like me have lived here for years.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of neighbors in my East Nashville neighborhood that have been there for they're older people who've lived there for years and years, and we don't want to see those people priced out of their neighborhoods. And so there may be some good solutions that the policymakers at the state and county government can implement to help with those things. And we're certainly working really hard to provide them with information about the trends that we're seeing, and trying to give them the information they need to make good decisions about that. There are also a few programs for elderly homeowners who are meet certain income requirements, but there's a tax freeze and a tax relief program that are really important for people who may qualify to check into.
Tax relief, tax freeze.
Yeah, the tax freeze program is the most generous program. It in terms of the income limit, it has got a $40,960 income limit. So if you make $40,960 or less, and you're 65 years of age and older, and you live in your home, it would really benefit the property owner to call the Metro Trustee's office. That program's not administered by the assessor's office, but we come in contact with all those people when we do their appraisals. So we always want them to be aware that they can check with the trustee's office and see if they qualify. And if they do, they can freeze their taxes at the current level. It's really important that they do that in 2016 with the upcoming 2017 reappraisal program. They want to go ahead and freeze it before it goes up. Now, reappraisal doesn't automatically mean that your taxes are going to go up, even if your value's gone up, because the county has to establish by state law a revenue neutral tax rate, and it's called a certified tax rate. So the way it works is we expect we're going to see probably a 35% average increase in Davidson County in 2017. So the certified tax rate, the current tax rate will have to be lowered by 35% to get to that certified tax rate that's revenue neutral. So if your property goes up less than average, you'll get an actual tax reduction.
Wow.
If you get a increase that's more than average, you're going to get an actual tax increase. So it just shifts the burden of taxation based on current market value.
That makes sense.
So,
Makes sense.
right.
And a tax freeze program can definitely protect some elderly people who might see that increase.
Especially if you live in the core of the city, it's really important that
Yes.
you try to go ahead and apply in 2016.
Can they find out some of that on Tennessee.gov too? Or is
They
it
can.
Nashville?
They can go to Nashville.gov
Nashville.gov.
and go to the trustee's office.
Okay.
And all the information's online. We also provide that information on our website as well and link you to the trustee's
And what was your
office.
web address again?
It's www.padctn.org, and that's
Okay.
Property Assessor, Davidson County, Tennessee.org.
All right.
So we'd welcome people to go out and check out those programs and look at our property values and property characteristics. It's a really fun site, I think, for people to look at.
No, it sounds good. It sounds good. I'm a newer homeowner myself, so I will be checking it out this weekend.
That's great. Well, thank you.
I really appreciate your time today. This is some great information.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you so
appreciate
much.
appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
And once again, you've been tuning to Take 10 on Tuesday with the Tennessee Tribune. I'll see you next time.